Hello, everyone, and welcome to our supported employment webinar. I'm just run through what we're going to cover today with Sheila Brown, who is one of our managers from our supported employment agency, and myself, Elaine Day, Director of SEND Support and Nursery at City College Norwich. You are probably extremely well aware of our ETF offer, and do take note and actually access the further resources, because there's new resources being uploaded all the time. I've got some new resources that's hot off the press today that will be uploaded that you'll have access to. But also we've got our new offer for the current year from Western Derby and ourselves. We are focusing on communities of practice, where we share and shape our sector with what you have to say and things that matter to you most. So look out for those, as well as live sessions, which include webinars like today. We're also undertaking college reviews for those colleges that actually want a peer-to-peer support. It's a supportive process that we work through a template. So if you're interested in picking that up with us, do get in contact, email address at the end. We've also joined forces with Nason and Whole School Send to actually look after the school sector when we're looking at continuous professional development in special educational needs, or as we call it in the FE sector, additional needs. And the Department for Education has umbrellaed us under universal services. So ETF, Nason, Whole School Send are working together on universal services to share and shape step change towards the improvements within the sector, and we do that by sharing our effective practice. There are some cracking links actually also on those home pages and within their websites, so do take a look at those. Whilst they obviously appeal to the school sector, there'll be some resources and activities within that that will be really useful, and I've used those already within my recent staff CPD, so do take a look at those when you get around to it. Today, what we'll cover is all going to be really focused on an outcomes approach to supported employment. So our approaches, so we're going to be sharing our practice. It's not the only way, but there are lots of things to take into consideration, and we want to guide you through that and to share our effective practice. But there obviously you'll have your own way of working within that. What we are going to look is at our pathway planning and the approaches that we've taken, and how we develop learner skills. I'm going to walk you through our framework models, sharing effective practice. We've got some top tips, and at the end, we're going to be sharing our toolkits with you. Of course, I think the most important part, and we've been on a journey at the college, and I know when I speak to you as the sector, this hopefully will be very familiar with you when we're thinking about the curriculum and the 8Ps, when we're thinking about the intent of what you're thinking about for your employability pathway, how you're going to implement that, and of course the impact, because we want that outcomes approach. All of those things that you will consider, and if you're not quite there yet, and I know that some colleges were working through those for the college reviews just to get that really fine-tuned, and making sure that we're considering all of those 8Ps. That will build into the whole webinar as we move forward. So we're talking about the purpose right from the very beginning, which is our intent, right through to performance, which is impact. So keep that in mind as we progress through. And I can come back to any of you individually if you want any help and support and guidance about pathway planning when you're thinking about that. For us, when we thinking about sustainable employment, that's our ultimate goal. When we're thinking about our outcomes approach, we've got two strands. We're thinking about the learner and we're thinking about the employer, and you have to think about both of those needs. And I know that some of the challenges that us as a sector have is about that employer engagement. Well, of course, if you don't understand from an employer's point of view and what their needs are, then that's going to be a real challenge. And Sheila, who runs our supported employment agency, is going to come on a little bit later and talk about her model and approach. But of course, what we have to do when we're thinking about that pathway plan, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, is the learner has to be focused on work. They have to have an aspiration for work. We're thinking about matching their skills and interests. And we've got to make sure that they get the right job rather than any job. It's actually got to be something that they want to work in and aspire to. Of course, any learner is always really anxious and wants to know about workplace information. So it's about those vocational profiles, making sure you've got things in place, and all of that information through induction, to make sure that any of the profiling that you offer updates with any new skills along the way. That all helps towards gaining sustainable employment and matching the right employer, which brings me over to this part here. Sheila will talk in a little while, and I know you will have effective practice around when you're talking to employers. It's not please can you take, it's actually we've got some great learners that you can take. So it's an access to a wonderful talent pool where we are shaping them. They've got the great skills to be able to match. But of course, it's really important, and Sheila will talk about that in a little while, around good job matching, and making sure that that's right. Because if you get that wrong, then the door closes, and you want something that has a positive impact, and then you've got a great reputation when you're engaging with other employers. There's a piece of work around reasonable adjustments, and we all do that, and it's actually guiding our employers around that. And within the toolkit and framework, there are some approaches that you can talk to your teams about how to help employers reasonably adjust. And I think the most important part with supported employment is supporting the employer from the provider, and having that constant open door of being able to say, well, no matter how many times or for how long, we'll support you to make sure that you have the right learner, the right employee for sustainable employment. So it's getting the right worker into and ensuring that they reach their goal of sustainable employment. What we also do, and I think is vitally important, is the recruitment approaches and guiding the employer to different approaches to recruitment. So we all know about job trials. We all know about those things that we talk about. Explain that to the employer, because it's not just about placements. It's about those adjustments that you might make with a different type of interview, and all of those approaches that you can open an employer's eyes to. Ultimately, we keep the learner and employer at the center of this. We make sure that, as our role and responsibility is to manage the day-to-day responsibilities at work, so it's that ongoing support for both the learner and employer, to make sure they got the best possible outcomes that actually meets the individual, the learner's needs, but actually enhances the business. And I think that's one of the unique selling points when you're talking to an employer around that. We're going to be developing their learner skills. So that's really important, to be able to ensure that the employer knows that you're doing that. And that's why you've got that ready-made talent pool, and building a career for the learner into sustainable employment, or actually know that they can just progress and move on. And we've got so many examples, and I know you will have as well, that you can share with your employers to say, if you employ a learner with additional needs, they're there for a very long time, if not forever. You haven't got to worry about sickness. You haven't got to worry about missing shifts. So you've got all of that commitment. And so when you're thinking about that, that's a really unique selling point. I mean, I think sometimes we need to highlight these points to make sure that we are actually going back to the employer and reinforcing this. The other part, and I know that I've worked quite extensively with many of you, is around your destination and pathway planning. So sometimes when you've got your curriculum, you need to go back and actually almost as a paperwork exercise, look at your all of your courses, cut them all up into sections, and actually think which ones fit into independent living, which ones fit into vocational, and which one fit into an employability pathway, and go through that as a stepped process. I've actually got this infographic. If anyone wants this afterwards, I can actually share this with you, and you can adapt it for your own organization. But I think ultimately we did this some time ago, where we looked at our entry points to think, where will learners come in? When we're assessing them, what will be their route? Are they looking to have independent skills development so that they can be as independent with living opportunities, or a vocational. And in this case today, we're talking about an employability route. So, and it's about clustering that. I think many of our learners can go round and round and round. Parents are not really clear about the routes to where their starting point is and where they're going. And it really helps with when you're talking to your local authority, when you're talking about funding that you're accessing, when you're talking to any stakeholder about that pathway. So it's really clear and defined, and it stops learners going round and round and round. And so how we did this some time ago is to actually look at, well, what do we do when we're looking at initial assessment? So we're actually planning for those that have got complex needs. Where might they end up? So we're looking at that steps to independence, to day opportunities, to make them as independent as possible with their living. Then we've got an employability route where we're actually developing their vocational and academic skills. So they take on further education before they end up into employment. And then you have those that are actually thinking about employment, but it's supported employment. And that's our focus for today when we're looking at into volunteering or paid employment. And I visited a college just this week, and it was lovely to hear from the learners that are talking about that are on entry level, that are probably not able to gain paid employment, but they actually say, I'm going to gain work, because they're thinking about volunteering, and it's about their understanding, which is absolutely right for those young people. But today we're going to be talking about the employability pathway and thinking about our structures, and I want to just talk you through this. So when we unpacked all of our offer, we slotted those into this pathway here. So let me talk you through this. When students can come in on the first year, I mean, they can enter at any point depending on their skill set, but once you've initially assessed that step one stage, you're looking at those employability skills to develop on-site enterprise activities, build their confidence, being able to prepare items when you're thinking about creativity and entrepreneurial activities, developing confidence with customer services when they're looking at handling money and things like that, invoicing staff and having confidence to be able to do that. That's always supported with within a small group, and you will have on your site resource just like this as well, with learning support assistants as well. Then when we move for ours, we move onto a specific sector skills. So we're moving away from general enterprise, where we're developing the skills and honing those in development of their knowledge and understanding. And at this point, we've removed the learning support assistant. We've placed them with a job coach. And so it feels quite different. And they're actually at some point within the year going off site for an external placement. So mostly within the year. So we're building up their skills, and that's all part of that pathway planning. For some of our learners, jump straight to our supported internship. Others need a bit of a plug in between, and we created Ticket to Employment, which focuses on job searching, CV, interview preparation, as well as entrepreneurial activities as well, and developing their customer service skills, working with people, and confidence with communication, but fundamentally getting ready for work. Now, at that point, our students can exit, find work, move on to the supported internship, or onto our supported employment agency. And these models here are what we're going to be sharing with you today in a framework. So we've pulled these all together for you to perhaps take away and actually assess against your own, or to actually develop and expand on your own curriculum. And we're at a good time of the year, because I think we go into the new year and actually look at our course planning and what our new offer will look like. What we had to do here, when I first introduced the pathways just a moment ago, some years ago now, so they've been fully embedded, was to bring together a document that helped that's helped all staff focus on an individual about their preparation for adulthood and their pathway plan. So we did this and put this in action because it wasn't something that was easy to just to pull through when we were thinking about 1 year and the next and the next. So we created this, and you might have something similar or something you think, oh yes, that would be helpful to be able to create something that helps as a way of pulling that through either electronically on a spreadsheet or in some kind of document. But today, now I've given you a bit of an overview, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail when we're looking at some of the toolkits. So we're going to first have a look at a slide on supported internships, and just to be really clear what that is, we're going to look at the new offer just for a moment or two. So there's some great news if you don't already know about that. We're going to look at the fondly known QAF, as we named it, the Quality Assurance Framework for Supported Internships. And then I'm going to talk through our Supported Employment Framework and our Supported Employment Checklist. The last two I will share with you after today, and then they'll be on the ETF website. So they're quite new to the sector, but actually it builds on the Quality Assurance Framework. Let's have a look at those just now. So when we're thinking about supported internship, I've put the link in for guidance up there. I'm hoping that you're all familiar with the model. Many of you are running supported internships, but let me challenge you and ask yourself when we're thinking about the principles. And I think this webinar is about outcomes impact. So how many, challenge yourselves to say how many of your learners gain paid employment. What's your percentage? So something for you to think about. How many of your, when we're thinking about the principle 3, how many of your job coaches are trained in and actually refer to the national occupational standards? So I've popped in the link there, and if your manager's here, you'll be looking to quality assure. If your job coach is there, you might think I need to just dust off my toolkit and just to see where I am with that. Oh yeah, actually I'm doing really well. Or perhaps I need to focus on some of the standards within there. So I think it's really important to think that the first principle is that you're working with an employer on their premises. It's not on site at all. There might be some off-site provision, but actually it has to be with the employer. There's many supported interns that actually don't have that in place, and so it's not actually following the guidance there. So do think about that. And every supported internship should have maths and English running alongside as part of their program of study. And the infographic on the right hand side actually walks you through that quite nicely. So just to continue here, so you've got the infographic there on the right hand side, just to be able to guide you. And I think most importantly, if I take you to the next slide in just a moment, we'll talk through the quality assurance framework. But for those of you that haven't got a supported internship program up and running, or indeed want to extend on your program, we've got an update from the Department for Education, where we have the National Development Team for Inclusion, NDTI, British Association for Supported Employment, and Project Search, all working collaboratively to increase the current supported internships from 2,500 nationally to 4,500 by 2025. So for 3 years, we're going to have some real changes nationally for supported internships. And they've branded it Internship Works because they actually really do. I don't know if you've been told very much about it or if you've seen the news flash, but you can get in touch there with Internship Works in the email there that's on the right hand side. What I've also done is actually added the supported internship guidance, our quality insurance framework to you to have a look at, and then there's the website to get in touch with them. So it's really exciting. So it's for those that are currently running internships. I mean, we run ours and we've definitely made contact with them already, with our local authority. What I can tell you right here, right now, is that they are working with local authorities and are just about to issue, if they haven't done already, the Section 14 grant. And so that will be coming over to the local authorities quite soon. So for any of you that want to extend or start your supported internship, do ping an email to your local authority to let them know your approach and what you want to do. We've done that as a region, so all the colleges have got together and actually said what we want to do in each of our locations. So do think about that and taking that forward. So that's really good news for the sector. One of the points that I want to highlight with you is the supported internship quality assurance framework. So this is fondly known as the QAF, as I've just said. It follows the preparation for adulthood and all the things that we know that I've just spoken to a little while ago about the pathway planning, the importance of partnership working to make sure that you personalize and develop individual skills and make sure that they are ready and able to transition into employment. So building on that, we created through the Centres for Excellence, this was funded by the Department for Education, the Quality Assurance Framework, and that builds on some of the work that you've just seen that's going to come through with the new contract. This document is already out in the public domain on the ETF website, and I've got the link there. That's a really good resource for you to check against when you're quality assuring your supported internship, and it covers all of those aspects there, all the way from leadership right down to results. And then you've got a action plan for you to look at and develop. If we look at, just to give you a bit of an overview of what that might look like in each of the sections. So as an overview, there is the criteria on one side. Each of the stages covers only 6. So what we wanted to do is to create something that wasn't arduous, and we wanted to make sure that there were clear points that needed to be covered off when you're thinking about leadership. And then some prompts and expected practice and expectation, along with some supportive links as well. So this is supposed to be a supportive toolkit to really help you understand whether your supported internship is effective within its within the framework, and whether you need to quality improve, or if it's just a quality assurance, an absolute big tick for you to feel confident about that. And that can be done at any level, as a leadership, as a manager, as a job coach, or support within that. If we look at that in a little bit more detail, I'm just going to show you 3 sections just so that we can just have a bit of a peek just to see what kind of things that we would expect. So in section 2, if we look at planning, as you can see, there's 6 sections there. One of the points that I'd like to just highlight here is interns are based 70% in the workplace. Now that links in with the Department for Education guidance. So challenge yourselves and think, I've got supported interns. Are they 70% in the workplace? They're off-site. And they absolutely replicate the days of work and the hours of the workplace. It's a personalized curriculum that has clear links to high quality sustainable employment, not necessarily with that provider, but actually as long as you're actually saying that you can learn again sustainable employment at the end of their internship. It doesn't matter if it's with that employer or with another one. Let's have a look at another one. Partnership working is absolutely critical. So what we've done here is to cover off different parts when we're thinking about different types of partners. We need to think about the employer. We need to think about the local authority. This one that I've picked out here is about the family involvement, an absolutely critical point. How many of our families, when we're talking about parent carers, that actually have those high aspirations for their young people to gain employment? and to support their aims to develop themselves into sustainable employment. I know that that's a challenge that we're all presented with, because there's income that's coming into the house when we're looking at support in benefits, but it's actually about guiding them to how they can gain other types of support financially, as well as having that income, and all of the positives around gaining employment anyway. Then another section and final section that I just wanted to show you here is about readiness. So I think this is the fourth point, 6 points that we're covering off here. This point is absolutely critical, and this is the theme through all of what we do, is about the intern's aspirations to employment, and we develop that through a vocational profile. This won't be new to you, but we are running a webinar on this later on to support around vocational profiling, job matching, job carving, which is a big ticket item, and how we support our teams, and then of course our employers to understand vocational profiling as well as job carving. So lots of resource. It's a really good resource to quality assure, to make sure your quality improving, to set yourselves an action plan, but a really supportive tool in terms of some guidance as well. Now, what I do want to just come on to now is to look at, and I'm going to bring Sheila in just a moment, when we're thinking about our pathway planning that we've been speaking about just now, is our model that we actually use here at the college. Now, we pick up the model that we're going to share with you, just builds on from our supported employment agency work, but actually you could bring this in as far as your employment pathway planning as well. We have a framework that follows 5 stages, and Sheila's going to talk this through with you in just a moment. So there's engagement, pre-employment, workshops, placements into sustainable employment. So if I just pick up the actual framework, and this is what I'm going to share with you afterwards, the model covers those 5 sections there. But within this document, you've got additional information where it talks about how to support the employer, workplace support, job coaching, standards, matching carving, etc., etc. So it's a really useful document. And I'm asked many a times about all of these sections. So I just thought if we pull it together in a document, hopefully that will be of use to you. And of course, please do adapt and use it as you will. So I'm going to hand over to Sheila now. If I could bring Sheila in, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Elaine. So our first model here is the support employment model. We've been going here just over, coming up for 13 years this year actually now, which is amazing. City College based at the moment. We used to be based off site, but we're back on campus. And we offer support into employment with the use of our employment job coaches here. There's 8 of us in the team, and we have quite a robust model that we follow the processes through. So as you can see there on the left hand side, what do we offer? Well, sort of the stages there. We can offer job coaching, we offer maths and English to functional skills. We pre-employment provisions, workshops, work experience, travel training, job coaching, as well as in-work support. So it's quite a mixed bag there as well. Next slide, Elaine. We've got obviously the criteria there, Elaine's putting it up, thank you, is a barrier to work into paid employment. So a barrier is a word we use because when we first started, we used special educational needs, and that instantly labelled them from a perspective of an employer and their employees. So we changed the word to barrier. It's much more human, and we all have barriers. So why have our young people not got barriers? And it's very vast. It can be moderate learning difficulties, complex needs, physical, mental health. It's a vast range there, but these a robust barrier really to they will need that support into employment. They would need some sort of level of support into employment. We are a role and provision, and we go through that. So our stage 1 model is engagements. The first point of call here is referral form. Referrals from a professional person, somebody who knows the young person, that is really important. I had an inquiry today from a young person, can my family friend refer me? Sorry, but no, because they could say all sorts of lovely things. We want that honest opinion, that professional opinion. That's very important because that person referring will know the young person, professional capacity. From that, we then go on to, they then have an employment profile. So using the information from that referral form, we'll meet with them an employment profile and we'll get to know the young person a little bit better, find out what their support needs are, what it is that they want to do, what can we do to support them, and I'll match them with a job coach from across our team of 8 job coaches. So we all take on a variety of young people with a variety of barriers. The engagement that goes on to pre-employment, one of the things we can offer as well. It's a 12-week course that we've developed from about 10 years ago now. We've been doing this, and it provides 2 days a week on a work placement. And this is where employer engagement has been really, really key to us, because we are still working now with employers right from day one, which that just goes to show that matching the young person to the employer, providing that support to the employer and the young person, it really is a key issue. We have 1 day a week in our training suite, or they go out and about. We have employers that come in and speak to the young people. We go out and do visits to them. We have a hospitality pre-employment running for 2 weeks in now. They've got visits to hotels and tours around various places, and employers coming in all planned, as well as team building and activities and employability skills in the training suite as well. These are run in vocational sectors. So we've got a hospitality one running now. We have a customer service one starting next week. We generally start an admin one in the new year, and retail and care as and when the demand is there. The program is very, very planned, obviously, sort of 12 weeks. We're based on developing lots and lots of communication skills and verbal skills, lots of embedded skills going on here. So if they're not necessarily starting a functional skill with us at that moment in time, Maths and English is embedded in many, many ways in a practical way for the young person, through writing their CV, through team building and team activities, looking at bus timetables, planning what time they need to be there, planning their routes, all very, very big, massive embedded learning skills for the young person on those sections. We can then move on to the workshops we offer as well. And again, these have been developed. And this is the important thing I would say to anybody looking to set up and support employment. You continuously develop, from where we started 12 years ago to where we are now, you're just constantly looking at the young person. They've all evolved. Technology has evolved. The employment scene has evolved. With past 2 years have been a massive learning curve for all of us. What can we do? So we've developed workshops, rather than one-to-one all the while. Let's put these young people together. Let them learn off each other. Let them encourage each other as well. So again, say we offer Maths and English, which we split into pre-entry and level 1 and 2. So we have differentiated groups. We run 2 groups of English, 2 groups of Maths. We do encourage them to do all the exams at the end. And I have to say, we're very proud of our English exam results at this moment in time. They are very impressive at level 1s and 2s. We do them, as you can see, in all the various workshops there. We have job app searching applications. We do the journey, what it would take from starting to look for a job, and job searching, communication, interview skills, mindset for work. We bring the British Red Cross in to do a first aid session for us, all vital things in the workplace, money management, introduction to retail, introduction to hospitality. These will run alongside their one-to-ones with a job coach. So we're enriching them all the time, as well as their one-to-ones, which is our bread and butter journeys with the job coach, job searching, CV creating. These are really enriching our young people and developing their skills. And as I said, they're learning off each other, which is amazing. Workshops are delivered by the job coaches, so they get to know all the job coaches across the team as well. So, if somebody has to cover quickly for somebody, that's not a strange face. They know who they are. And we've got 2 bespoke rooms we operate from, which are purely for ours. Then sort of meeting rooms and training suites. So it's very much that level up into training and employment. We look at any qualifications they might need as well, and then we look at whether they're matched up for placements. This is where employment engagement is key as well. It really is key. You've got to get the right employer, the right young person. You can't just say, oh, you want to do retail, okay, you go over that one. Oh, you want to do hospitality, oh, go to that one. You've got to look at the environment. It's important to the young person. You've got to encourage the employer to do that. They may not be able to do all the roles that employer wants them to do, but let them really succeed at the parts they can do. I had a good example of that recently with employer on work experience. My young person couldn't do all part of the front of house role, but they could do parts of it. So they focused on those rather than make it look like she can't do a whole job. And then they offered her paid employment in that by job carving. She's really good at these job roles. They're really good at that job roles. Let's have two different people doing one job. It's really, really amazing. Lots of job searching with the job coach one-to-one. This is the weekly one, I should say, job coaching one-to-one with, and just looking for independence, encouraging those that can do it to do it independently as well. This is them taking ownership of their learning. It's not us saying, oh, you do that. It's like, what do you want to do? Let's see how we can get there, planning it with them, talking it through with them. How are we going to do it? How work ready do you feel that you are? If you're a bit further back, okay, let's see what we can embed into that. What adjustments in the workplace will you need? Will you need a mentor? Will you need a buddy? Will you need a shorter day? For instance, you may not be able to survive or cope with a 4-hour for work experience or a whole day. Let's look at, again, it's about giving your best and making adjustments to make sure you give your best, that you do not fail in that. We don't want a negative experience for the employer or the young person. It's always making sure that we match them carefully to the employer. And as I said, we are proud of some of our employer links, and from that success, other employers, it's a great tool to go away with. We've worked with such and such for a while. This is what they're doing, and this is what they do. And other employers will go, hang on, we want a piece of that as well. Then, we want a constant workforce. We want a really good, reliable workforce. And we've got to the point now where we are actually having organisations coming to us and say, can we work with you? Let's see what we can do, which, it's really, really good to do. It takes hard work to do it, but it's incredibly rewarding when it happens. And then from there, we gain employment, which is our end goal. I always say to our young people, their route here with us, the end goal is always the same. The journey they take to get there can go a straight line down the middle of the road, or it can meander around the corners. We don't mind. How they get there is amazing, but that is our end target. For example, these are some of the employers we are working with currently and have been in the past. And on the left-hand side, there is some of the job roles they may be doing. It's vast. We do a lot of outside work as well. We've got one of our big local Norfolk County Council spin-off shoots, and that we do some parks and gardens with them. We have all been in quite some unusual job coaching positions that, if a young person says this is what I want to do, like, okay, let's see what we can do. They can do kitchen assistant, we can do the front of house, we can do the retail, we can also do parks and gardens, we can do lots and lots of different ones. Royal Mail are coming up right now with their Christmas jobs. We're on it. We're over it. We've got 3 or 4 people going for interviews with them already. We get in there early. We like to know. And some of those companies there, so say like Zach's, I will give them a shout out because they're great. They not only offer work experience, which they're doing currently, they're the company that did a job carving. They said this young person deserves a job. They've worked hard, can't do that 100% of that job. Let's what we can do. We work with 16 to 25-year-olds. They don't have to have an EHCP to work with us. They just do need to be referred by a professional person. We follow the local job market. That is really, really important as well. Sorry, Lane. Okay, that's as much as I can do on that one. I hope I've said enough to
Lovely,
inform.
thank you. So no, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. So I just think when we're thinking about the your framework, what we've done also, everyone, is pull together a checklist. So you've obviously got your quality assurance framework for your supported internship, which has a very specific criteria from the Department for Education. And then what we've created from our way of working, and Sheila's just walked through our 5-stage approach, is a checklist for you to look at when you're thinking about your pathway plan. This is not prescriptive in any way, but hopefully it gives you some guidance when we're looking at these sections here. So let's just have a look at that a little bit. So again, this covers over so many areas, 1 through to 8 aspects to it. If we pick up just one of those sections there, I think this is point 6. Leaders strategically and operationally engage well with employers. I won't read out the whole statement, but it's not just people like Sheila as a manager just operationally engaging with with employers. You need your leadership team on board, and you need those that can influence. And we had a visit a little while ago where we had the CEOs for local businesses coming in and actually looking at our offer, and to really inspire and to engage, because they're the people that can hopefully influence and to make our lives much more easier. So leadership is really important when we're looking to access placements for work. If we look at other parts of the checklist, as you can see, there are lots of several headings, but I'm just going to go through a couple just to give you a bit of a taste of what you can expect, and you can look at this at your own leisure time. Stakeholder partnership. Now, it's very similar to the quality assurance framework and follows the same thoughts when you're thinking about employers, when you're thinking about your local authority. Here, I think this is just Sheila's point where she said about noticing employers value employment placements, job trials, and other alternative methods for learners to gain experience and confidence. And it's about actually having those employers that are disability confident. And sometimes that takes a lot of work and a lot of footwork and a lot of no's before you get the yes. But as Sheila's explained there and well highlighted, once you get a really good reputation, it's the employers that come back to you. And I'm sure you've got lots of examples. And if you haven't, don't give up, because I know it's hard work, but it's about actually just keeping on and trying hard with that. But once you actually get results, the results start to flourish.
I could
So
just jump in
learn.
there. I mean, Lane, yeah, exactly. Sorry, there. It's exactly that, isn't it? We've had this conversation many a time. It's not giving up with an employer, just not being persistent and hounding them, but just sort of pointing out the benefits to them. And we use the sort of, I've got some in my team, they're like a dog with a bone. They just don't give up. They just keep going back. And through that, we have, and I mean that in a nice way, professional way, but we have developed some incredible links through pure hard work, and they're sustainable. They're long lasting.
Thank you, because that's really when we're focusing on how learners to progress. And you've talked about the employment placement needs to be matched really well. So it's not just thinking about hospitality and just thinking popping them with any employer. I think you've described that really well, Sheila, and it's actually making sure that it's of high quality, the placement, that you're making sure that it's the right skills that matches the learner, to make sure that they do really, really well. And so it's a really good experience for both the learner and employer. And of course, as Sheila's just explained, then that's when you get great outcomes, because you get more referrals. That employer will come back and take another learner, or indeed offer a job at the end of it. Then we're just coming on to the employment part, which is we're just talking about, and Sheila's described this really well, about the relentless in securing a high quality sustainable employment. Many of you have actually said, it's really, really tough out there, but it's capitalizing on what's available. Sheila's got some great results that she's going to share with you in just a moment. Even when we were in lockdown and the world was at home, Sheila's team was out there and actually gaining work for learners. And as she's just described, it's about getting in really quickly with certain jobs, the Royal Mail this time of the year, knowing that those seasonal jobs are coming up and capitalizing on that. So what I'd like to just go through here is the employer service that you can say that you can offer employers, and the benefits. So when you're talking to your employers, part of the framework that's on the right hand side that you can see there that we'll share with you afterwards, it's about saying our supported employment is like an agency. You haven't got all of the financial commitment and the cost, but actually you're accessing a great talent pool. So that's a really good benefit and point that needs to be highlighted to an employer to really help you. And I know that you come back to me as a sector quite a lot to say it's really, really tough engaging with employers. So we pop this as part of your toolkit to support you here. Talk about it as a service that's free to everyone, and that you're finding suitable candidates to fill vacancies. Yes, it's about placements, but there's job shortages out there at the moment. So it's an employees market, and an employers are need to fill jobs. So if you say, well, undertake them as a placement, give them a job trial, and it should work out with you because we've got the right learner for you because we've matched them really well. So notes to them as part of your service that you've got ongoing continued support. That's absolutely critical. And that also, because your network is really big, that you can promote vacancies through your networks, which I know that the team do. So the other part that is really important to note when we're thinking about benefits is work with professional, dedicated, and successful team, so that you offer bespoke, tailored support around individual needs, and that you spend time as a provider getting to know the individuals well. So the employer doesn't need to worry about that. They don't need to think, actually, are they the right person? Because that job matching, can't emphasize that enough, that you're doing that really well. And that brings on the previous points that you've got to get that placement right and making sure that you're matching, and rather than just placing. That you've got a strong understanding of the individual's needs, their experiences, as well as their barriers. And I think Sheila will talk in a moment about, actually, it's really honest to be open and transparent about some of the barriers and those adjustments that the employer needs to take, but also the adjustments that the individual needs to take as well. I think the critical part is that we've really emphasized here today, and I really hope it helps you when you're talking to employers. It's about the employability skills that you're developing, and the way that Sheila and the team have developed this over 12 years. It really works for us. You might have a different approach within your program of study, but essentially you're developing over a pathway or over the course of the year, developing employability skills so that they're job ready. And so there's a whole point around that, where you're working closely with the learners to make sure they're job ready. There's lots of training, work experience, and personal development that Sheila's just spoken about is actually essential for developing those skills, and make sure that that it's clear that the learner is bringing a wide range of skills, attributes, and actually just the way that they are to an organization, and not just their role. And those are the points over there within the toolkit that I wanted to emphasize with you, that you can go to on those pages there when we're looking at employer benefits, reasonable adjustments, and alternative methods for recruitment and selection. And of course, the greatest asset is to be able for an employer to say that they're disability confident, and to be able to have that as part of their website. Going to hand over to Sheila again, if I may, to talk about our top tips.
Brilliant. Okay, as I say, the matching keeps coming up there, doesn't it? And it is, it is no recruitment cost for an employer. If I can give an example of that, just this week, I had a young person. I approached somebody for a work experience. They came back and said, actually, we're looking for this. They linked me with another employer for a cleaning position. We knew that an interview may not possibly give the best for this young person. So they said, well, let's do a working interview, which is something from the visit we had that Elaine mentioned a while ago. Quite a few of the CEOs were saying, let's not keep doing this face-to-face question and answer clipboard style. Let's look at recruiting in a different way. And of course, with us being involved as well, there's no cost to the employer for that effect. And again, we've got our success. It's interesting because I'm sitting here and I've now had 2 messages come through from 2 of my colleagues here. Now claim 2 outcomes this afternoon. One literally just hot off the press 30 seconds ago. So there'll be a big thumbs up from the team all afternoon now. So that's really good. We like our last minute Friday successes. And it's, it happens. It's happening daily, and it's great. It's happening across the sectors, in administration, in retail. Administration has been a challenge recently because people are working from home still, but we're now getting back in there, which is really encouraging. And again, it's that tenacity to keep going. building up that core of employers is also against, and it does happen. I can promise it happens in any area, whether you're in Norfolk, whether you're in Sheffield, whether you're in anywhere else in the country. You can build up that bank of employers, and once your reputation goes out there and they know they're going to get job work support, you're not going to send them somebody just for the sake of sending them somebody. You're going to work carefully. That young person's going to be really, really grilled in interview techniques. They know you're going to get that reputation that goes before you, which is brilliant.
And you bring your employers in to help with chats and mock interviews, don't
Yeah,
you, into
we
your activities?
do. Yes, we involve them through the pre-employments. We do that. They come in, we visit them. They come in and they'll tell us what sort of people they're looking for, who they're, where they started from, for instance, the challenges they may gone along the way in their school life may not have been the happiest time, but I'm now a manager of a store, sort of thing. And it's a massive example for them. This is what you can do if you not necessarily working hard. It's just like, do you want a job? If you want a job, this is what you can do. If you want to have to work, if you can do that, then we'll achieve it. And obviously, the sectors we're leaving in. So, temp jobs, seasonal jobs, they're all a vital thing that doesn't have to be permanent. It's fixed term. It's always a step on that ladder. They're giving them that taster for work. They can taste to earn money as well, but it is that taste for work and that routine that's expected. And you've got it on your CV. We all know if you've got a taster of work, you've got a bit of experience, it's always easier to move on to the next step as well.
And I think that really works for your team when you're looking at those temporary jobs, as you just
Mm.
described with Royal Mail, because it's that stepping stone and building blocks, isn't it, for the young person and popping on their CV. So that's a good one to highlight.
Massive. Summer seasonal jobs are a great one. I had a young person up in Sheringham. His work is slowly open, but yeah, it's massive. The screen has disappeared, Elaine. But yeah, do you want me to do some outcomes?
Just carry on here. Thank you. It's just
Okay, we work with employers. Again, working with employers, look at wider ways of working, such as online. There's quite a few jobs, or not quite many, not so many now, but some are coming up as remote working. Is that all suitable for our young people? We've found some of our young people that have really, really swung to change to working online because and again, it's work relationships with employers for future applicants. And again, it's to say they come back to us. We had an organisation we used to work with quite prolifically before the past 2 years. They came back to us this year and say, look, we're struggling to fill vacancies. We know you had a good reputation. What are you guys doing now? Can we work with you again? And they flag up to us on a fortnightly basis any vacancies they might have and say, have you got any applicants? And we have had 2 people gain employment recently through this system. So it's always, in Norwich, we're very, very good. In Norfolk, we now work a lot in North Norfolk. I'm up there a lot in North Norfolk. Looking at the employers, look at what's happening in the local area and meeting the young people's demographic. They want to stay in their local area, working with those employers, just being flexible in our approach as well, and just constantly developing and just looking at, the seasonal Christmas jobs are coming up now. What can we do about it? And let's get in there. And there at the bottom, there are strengths of what we do, but being honest.
I think that's the critical part, and I think that's one of the attributes of your agency. It's about building trusting relationships and being open and honest in your approach, isn't it? And that does
Absolutely.
build on, as you say, you've got a really large employer pool, and that just builds on time and time again. But what you are actually doing is a real focus on the individual's attributes and their strengths, as and all of their abilities to support effective partnerships. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Yes, certainly is. It's just keep continually building on that. And, it might start with work placement support, but that can then turn into paid employment from it, which is how our pre-employment basis we work on. They're highlighting, they're showing an employer what they can do. We've got one of our leading chemist suppliers that I'll name them Boots. They're great. They do work experience at this time of the year. And I can, fingers crossed, I'd be extremely disappointed if this year we didn't get another temporary Christmas job from them. We have the past 4 years. So that again is that. And it's long-standing relationships. You phone them up and say, we're starting a pre-employment camp. And they're like, yes, of course, come in. Tell me what you want, tell me what you want to do. So it is just building on those and being open and honest, which of course is one of the college's policies, being open and honest and open and informative. And we carry that through with our learners as well and our young people. This is the factor of life. Be open and honest. This is what will get you places.
And I think from that, if you want to just talk through your impactful results, because from following this through, and I think this is the whole point of today, it's about impactful outcomes. Do you want to just talk through from year one and how you started off?
Year one, we started off with 3 members of staff. So, and I think we're getting 16 jobs in that time was not bad at all. As you can see, coming up to year 5, we keep increasing. The numbers have increased as we changed our approach to employers and what we've developed our pre-employments as well and our workshops. That has given more sort of hardened employability skills. Year 5s and 6, we had more job coaches, so the outcomes were higher. But if you look down there, we're still going year 8, 9, and 10. When I had a team of 6 and 7 of us, those results are pretty amazing, and they are right across the sectors. And it is through the partnership builds that we do. You can see 2021 in lockdown, 59 jobs. It's like, okay, we're working from home, we can still communicate, swift on the system, changing the college ways of working. Employers are still operating. There's a lot of employers still operating. Interviews were done by Zooms. Great. Our young people picked it up quickly. And as I say, there are 59 outcomes. And then this last academic year, we go from August to July with our academic year to outcomes, 60. 40 of those are permanent, 16 were temp, and 4 were apprenticeships. And so far this year, from August, we had 5 jobs, and I had 5 for September. That went up to 6 this morning, and it's literally just gone up to 7 this afternoon as we speak. So we've got 12 for the first 2 months of our recording for August and September.
That's wonderful. And some sort of key points just to think about when you're thinking about those results, how impactful that is, not only for the learner, but actually for our wider community. What I do want to just share with you, and thank you, Sheila, for walking that through with us, is what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. So for those of you that have joined today, many of you are joining our session face-to-face follow-up site visit for the day at session 2. So I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll send you more details about that within the next day or 2. So we welcome you, and then please do join up for any of the other activities that as they come forward. Thank you very much for today, and apologies for some of the recording issues, and I'll be taking some questions now. Thank you.
Elaine, there's a couple of questions in the chat.